looking at the alternative dispute resolutions. And our next speaker is Dr. Aisling Parks, who is the program director of the new LLM that recently started at UCC. So I'm going to hand over to Aisling. Thank you for talking us through the new program and what our prospective students might expect from it and how it might enhance their career options going forward.
Thank you, Zita, and good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here to, I suppose, welcome you all to, and anyone who's has a particular interest in ADR to promoting our LLM ADR program. So as Zita mentioned, our LLM was only launched this year with our first cohort of students currently experiencing the program. I suppose, as Zita mentioned, I'm the program director, but I am also a senior academic in the School of Law in UCC. I specialise in a variety of areas, including children's rights, child law and family law, as well as sports law and ADR in particular. So I suppose just to give a little bit of background to this programme, whilst ADR is a growing profession nationally and internationally, we recognised that there was very little by way of legal qualification for undertaking an LLM and undertaking studies in ADR. So whilst there are plenty of postgraduate diplomas and other a whole range of programmes, none of them were actually a master's in law. So I suppose that's what's unique about our particular programme, in that it is of both national and international appeal because of its very nature to both undergraduate students, but also to graduates and those who are in the workplace already, who are wanting to upskill. I suppose it has an appeal to those who are working or studying in the area of law and related professions, as well as disciplines outside of law, in particular in relation to health, in relation to HR, in relation to psychology, there's a huge spectrum of areas where this is relevant. I suppose what's really interesting about this programme as well is that it is, I suppose, it's taught by scholars but also professionals, and we are very lucky this morning to have some of those professionals, in particular the chair of the IPMO in relation to mediation, and also we have a whole range of other contributors to the programme who have a wide breadth of experience, also in relation to arbitration and other forms of alternative dispute resolution. What's also unique about this programme is that it provides both the theory behind the different forms of alternative dispute resolution, as well as the practice skills. And I think this is particularly important for anyone who wants to, I suppose, upskill in relation to how they engage with people, how they deal with disputes within their daily lives, not to mention within their professional context. But it gives you a good grounding in alternative dispute resolution, and it also explores the nature of conflict management, the spectrum of the different ADR processes, and mediation in practice, which is really unique to this particular programme. There are a whole host of, I suppose, other benefits, and I could spend all morning talking to you about them. But I suppose, from a skills perspective and a careers perspective in particular, given the growth of ADR nationally and internationally, and I suppose that's represented by the fact that we have new mediation legislation in Ireland, we also have arbitration legislation. Professional qualifications in dispute resolution, such as those in relation to the LLM ADR, are increasingly actually in demand, and they're highly recognised worldwide, not just within the Irish context. And I suppose the skill set that you will develop as part of doing this programme will include things like facilitation, active listening, conflict management, negotiation, all of which are skills actually that are particularly relevant to practitioners, whether you're in a legal context or outside of a legal context. And so I suppose, as I said, students or graduates who want to take this qualification into their existing profession will be, hugely, I suppose their skill set will be hugely enhanced by virtue of doing so. And as we mentioned, we're really, really lucky to have, I suppose, accreditation in terms of newly qualified mediators from the IPMO, who we work very closely together with in relation to this programme, and have been very generous with their input and their contribution. And also in relation to the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So we have a module which is accredited by the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and we've just gone through a rigorous process to have that re-accreditation for another 3 years. So we are really lucky to have two international and domestic regulatory bodies looking at and recognising our masters in terms of providing I suppose professional qualifications. That's not to say that you wouldn't be expected to go off afterwards and engage in further continuing professional development, as would be the case in the context of becoming a solicitor or barrister anyway. And so, yeah, so I mean, I suppose in terms of advice in relation to, you know, whether you know, if you decide that this might be something for you, I suppose it's a really alternative, and no pun intended, but it is a really alternative, I suppose, option in terms of career choice. You know, if you are within the realms of academia in law in particular, it's thinking about the alternatives that exist in society, that movement towards taking things outside of litigation and trying to, you know, come to an agreement based on common interests between parties. And I think that's really, really important. And I think no matter what you decide to do, that will be really beneficial in terms of supporting your career, regardless of what you decide to do afterwards. The skills that you obtain as a result of doing that will be really, really important. So it's really thinking about, you know, in terms of skills development, where do you see yourself going? We get a lot in terms of theoretical knowledge, but actually how we apply that knowledge in practical terms is really, really important. And I think our programme delivers that to a really, really strong extent. Yeah, so I think I've probably spoken long enough now, Zita, so I will hand back over to the actual professionals who practice in this particular area, and I'll let them speak more to the programme. Thank you.